Hi friends, so today we're going to do another practice of how to write a nonfiction summary. We're going to use that same helpful template to help guide us to, looking through our topic, our main idea, our key details, which will then guide us to writing our summary by putting it all together. So we're going to be looking at the informational text called Giraffes. So I'm going to read through it quickly again because it's a really short article, and then I'm going to show you step by step so you're ready to practice on your own. Okay, so our title is called Giraffes. Giraffes are the tallest land animal in the world. They grow 16 to 18 feet, or 5 meters, tall. Due to their extreme height, giraffes can reach leaves and shoots growing on the African savanna. In particular, they seek out the acacia trees. They also have very long tongues, which help them pull leaves from trees. Have you ever noticed the skin-colored knobs on the top of a giraffe's head? It is called ossicones. Both males and females have them. Female ossicones are smaller and have a small tuft of fur on top, while male ossicones are bald on the top. These knobs are used to protect the head when males fight, which involves swinging their necks at each other in a show of strength called necking. Fast fact. Just like snowflakes and human fingerprints, no two giraffes have the same spot pattern. Okay, so now let's go through our nonfiction summary template and let's try to work our way to writing our summary. So remember, your topic is 1 to 2 words of what we're reading, and that one's pretty obvious. We're reading about giraffes. So I'm going to go ahead and write giraffes. Okay. Our main idea is one sentence of what the passage is about. And remember, main idea, see the word main? It's what your article is mainly about. Another word would be what it is mostly about. And so I know that last video I taught you the trick that you could usually look in the first sentence or the last sentence. So always check that and see if that's what it's mostly about. So the first one says, giraffes are the tallest land animal in the world. Well, it did talk a little bit, except in the first paragraph, it talked a lot about a giraffe's height, but that's not what the article was mostly about, because down here it talked about their ossicones and their horns. So we can't say that giraffes are the tallest land animal in the world. That can't be our main idea, because that's not what this article is mostly about. And then the last sentence says, these knobs are used to protect the head when males fight, which involves swinging their necks at each other in a show of strength called necking. Once again, that's good information, but it's not our main idea. It's not what our article is mostly about. So I'm going to kind of think about what I read, what words were repeated a lot. I know they kept repeating the word giraffe and what giraffes have. So this is a great example of how you might have to come up with your own main idea. It might not be just given to you right here. You might have to create one sentence about what this was mostly about. So I know from the article that I read that it mostly talks about giraffes being tall and having horns on their head. So the main idea could be giraffes are tall animals with horns on their head. Okay, now, so this kind of it was mostly about describing how they're tall and what they do with their height and describing about their horns. So now let's go to the detail part, the detail section, and let's find key details in this paragraph. Remember, we kind of practiced this week. So let's see what's really important and what's kind of interesting. Giraffes are the tallest land animal in the world. Ooh, that is a big major fact. And that was even connected with our main idea. It's talking about tall animals. So I can say giraffes are the tallest land animal in the world. They grow 16 to 18 feet, 5 meters tall. Not a major fact, not a super key detail. That's just extra information explaining how tall they grow, or how tall they get. Due to their extreme height, giraffes can reach leaves and shoots growing on the African savanna. Once again, I know we see a bolded word, but not every time are bolded words going to be major details. So that's just kind of telling us due to their extreme height. We already talked about their extreme height. We already pulled out a key detail. They're the tallest land animal in the world. I think that pretty much covers that they have an extreme height. So we don't need to repeat ourselves again. In particular, they seek out acacia trees. Once again, that's just a little side fact. We know that they're tall and they eat. They can reach trees. We don't need to know what kind of trees. That's just an extra interesting fact. They also have very long tongues which help them pull leaves from the tree. That's just a very interesting, kind of cool fact that they included. They got really long tongues. Okay, have you ever noticed the skin-colored knobs on top of a giraffe's head? So that's a question. We know that that can't be really important because that's asking a question, but we need to go see if they answered the question first. It is called ossicones. So here's a bolded word, and I actually don't know what this bolded word means, so that might be actually a pretty important key fact. And it also answered a question. That's kind of a big clue, too, on a key fact, too, like a key detail. If something ever answers a question, that's a pretty important thing to know. So we know that ossicones are the skin-colored knobs on top of a giraffe's head. So I'm kind of just grouping those together. That's a pretty key detail because we always see these little knobs up here, and now we actually just learned what they are. Both males and females have them. Okay, we don't, once again, pretty interesting, but not super major because we know that every single giraffe has those knobs on their head, those little horn knobs. Female ossicones are smaller and have a small tuft of fur on top, while male ossicones are bald on the top. Once again, just some extra details, because we kind of are trying to talk about the main point, which our main point is that they have those ossicones. These are just extra details that tell us how the female's ossicones look and the male ossicones look. So extra facts, extra details, not super or major important to know about giraffes. These knobs are used to protect the head when males fight. So you know what's pretty interesting? I think this is a key detail because we know that they have these ossicones, but now we know why they have them. These knobs are used to protect the head when males fight. And then the rest of the sentence says, which involves swinging their neck at each other in a show of strength called necking. That just gives you more details explaining how they fight. Not super major. But this one is definitely a key detail, super important detail, because when we talked about them having ossicones, it never really told us why do giraffes have those on their head. And then it answered that. These knobs are used to protect the head when males fight. So we know that's pretty big. And then fast fact, just like snowflakes and human fingerprints, no two giraffes have the same spot pattern. Usually if there's something that says fast fact or fun fact, that's just kind of, once again, an interesting extra detail. So we don't need those. So now let's take what we've learned and let's plug it in. So key detail number 1, giraffes are the tallest land animal in the world. So I can just go ahead and write that because that's a really short sentence. Giraffes are the tallest land animal in the world. Okay? Now let's go to our next key detail, where we talked about ossicones. So we said skin color knobs on top of a giraffe's head. It's called ossicones. So we need to say that giraffes have ossicones and what they are, because we can't just say giraffes have ossicones. Let's describe what they are. They're the skin colored knobs on the top of a giraffe's head. So key detail, we can say giraffes have skin colored knobs on top of their head called ossicones. That way we are introducing that that we're using that vocabulary word, ossicones. So giraffes have skin-colored knobs on top of their head called ossicones. And key detail number 3, these knobs are used to protect the head when males fight. That's huge. That explains what the purpose is of having those ossicones. So we can say ossicones, because once again, remember how I talked about trying to turn these into your own words, not just always copying it, but using your own words. Ossicones are used to protect the head when males fight. Period. Okay, so now we have all of our parts. We have our topic, giraffes. We have our main idea, giraffes are tall animals with horns on their head. And we could even just change, now that we know that they're not horns, we could change that to knobs. Because that's what our paragraph was mostly about. It described how tall they were and how they have knobs on their head. And then we gave key details that we found were most important. Now all we got to do is put this together and write our summary. So let's start with our main idea. Giraffes, and all I'm doing is copying what I did earlier, are tall animals with knobs on their head, period. Now I'm going to do my key detail. I'm going to do the first one. Giraffes are the tallest land animal in the world. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this one, my key detail number 2, and my key detail number 3. I'm going to copy those here, and then boom, we did our summary. We took all of this information, but we only mentioned the key details. We only talked about what was most important about learning with giraffes, and we took this long passage and we made it together into a shorter summary. And that's all summary is. You're just shortening a longer passage, but mentioning just the key the key details and the most important ideas.